Good afternoon. I'm calling to order the House Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. It is Tuesday, March 28th, 2023, 2 p.m. We are in conference room 329. We'll be limiting testimony to 2 minutes. For those who are on Zoom, please keep yourselves muted and your video turned off until it is your turn to testify. If you are having technical difficulties, please use the chat function to contact our IT staff and have that sorted out. First on the agenda, we have SB 797 SD1 HD1 relating to time sharing plans. First to testify on this measure, we have Lori Beth Van Canfort, timeshare administrator from the DCCA, with comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Lori Beth Van Canfort, timeshare administrator with DCCA. Department stands on its written testimony offering comments. Would like to note that we have been working with the proponents of the bill, ARDA, and we have reviewed their proposed language, and the language is acceptable to the department, and so we have come to an agreement. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Next we have Justin Vermouth from the ARDA Hawaii in support on Zoom. Mr. Vermouth?
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. We would like to stand on our written testimony and thank for the DCCA for their willingness to work with us in the language, and thank you for the committee for reviewing this matter, and happy to be available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Charles E. Pear Jr. from ARDA Hawaii in support on Zoom.
You got me. This is Charlie Pear. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I see no reason to repeat what's in my testimony.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Seeing none. We'll be moving on to SB 798 SD1 HD1 relating to time sharing. First to testify on this measure, we have Lori Beth Van Canfort, timeshare administrator from DCCA, with comments.
Good afternoon again. The department has been working with ARDA again also on this, and the current language of the bill is something that we worked on together, and it is acceptable to the departments, and the department has no opposition to it. If you have any questions, I'll be available. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Justin Vermouth from ARDA Hawaii in support on Zoom.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, thanks for the opportunity once again to testify. We stand on our written testimony and we're available for any questions that you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next we have Charles E. Pear Jr., ARDA Hawaii in support on Zoom. Mr. Pear, are you there? Is he there? No. Okay.
Here I am.
Oh, please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity and thanks for reminding me that I'm on mute. I'm happy to stand on my testimony and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Seeing none. We'll be moving on to SB 799 SD1 HD1 relating to time-sharing plans. First to testify on this measure, we have Lori Beth Van Canfort from the Timeshare Administrator of DCCA with comments.
Yes, this bill, we submitted testimony regarding our concerns with the bill. Again, we've been working with ARDA on this. We're not quite there yet on this bill, but we are still working on it. So. We'd like more time to work on it to address our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Justin Vermouth from ARDA Hawaii in support on Zoom.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, thanks for the opportunity to testify. We stand on a written testimony. I would just add, a couple additional comments on this. We have been working with DCCA on this measure. We're still awaiting comments on our original language. But, we stand willing to work with the agency, of course, on the language, and looking forward to getting comments on this measure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Charles E. Pear Jr. From Art of Hawaii in support on Zoom. Mr. Pear, are you there?
There we go. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Again, I would like to reiterate Justin's comments. We do support this measure. The testimony by the state is that there may be circumstances where they need title reports beyond the circumstances contemplated by the bill. We really need for them to articulate what those what those situations are so that we can address them in the bill. But we have been working together, and we look forward to concluding the bill.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll be moving on to SB 930, SD1, HD1, relating to the Residential Landlord-Tenant Code. First to testify on this measure, we have Mana Moriarty, Executive Director from DCCA's Consumer Affairs, in support.
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair and members. The DCCA supports the bill with some requested amendments. We appreciate the work that has gone into this by the prior committees. We stand by our testimony supporting a cap on screening fees. We also think the language about refunding costs in excess of the actual costs incurred needs to be tightened, and we'd be happy to offer a clarifying amendment. In addition, there is concern about authorizing charges for obtaining personal references. Personal references in general, we think it's probably consisting of a phone call, and we would prefer a bright line rule that prohibits landlords from charging costs that will avoid disputes about the cost of a personal reference. We'd also support limiting the persons who are able to be screened to applicants who either rent or propose to pay rent. And on this provision, we are at odds, I think, with the realtors on this particular provision. Happy to answer questions from the members or Chair or Vice Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have Betty Lou Larson from the Catholic Charities Hawaii in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. We've been testifying on this kind of bill for the last couple years, and we feel it is time to really address it. Catholic Charities find that it's really a burden, not only on low-income people, but middle-income people, Alice families. You know the rental market out there. You can't just apply to one or two places and expect to find someplace. And so we feel that really we need to have some limits, and we need to have some standards for this. We are not sure if the languages in this bill really follows the intent. I assume that the intent is if you process and incur fees, you would charge the tenant that. And that's what some of landlords do. And actually, some landlords don't even charge fees for that. So there's a wide variety of practices. So we suggest that maybe you want to tighten the language by saying, when an application is being processed with outside fees incurred by the landlord. The landlord can make a phone call, do these things on their own, but these outside fees were agreeable to having a fee. We also feel there should be a cap of $25 and a limit on one per household. I know that's a little different than what is said, but think about it. If it's $50 and you have to do 10 applications, that's $500. And if you have to have 2 people, that's $1,000 to try to find one rental unit. And 10 applications is not, untoward in this market. We also feel that if the landlord would feel more comfortable screening more people, they have the right to do that. They can go and get other credit checks or other things on others at their own charge. Of course, they'd have to follow the fair housing laws on that, but they have the right to do that. We're not preventing them from looking into the credit histories of other people in the family, as far as I know. So thank you very much for hearing this bill. We really appreciate it this year.
Thank you. Next, we have James Skowitsky from Executive Officer from the Board of Pharmacy with comments.
Chair, I think that's the next bill.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you for that correction. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Oh, please go ahead.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair. My name is Lindsay Garcia from the Hawaii Association of Realtors. If you don't have our written testimony, we can be sure to get that to you. We appreciate the intent of this measure, and we agree with the need to return fees that are not used for screening services. However, we do have some suggested amendments going forward for the bill, if the bill is to go forward. And my written testimony covers our concerns, but I did want to underline a few points. The process by which housing providers screen tenants involves looking into credit reports as well as eviction history, personal references, and public records such as criminal background checks. This process ensures that all prospective tenants are evaluated fairly, and there are records in case there are concerns due to discrimination under fair housing law. All tenants who live at the property are subject to the terms of the lease. Therefore, all adults can be subject to screening. This is not just a matter of fairness for applicants, but also of safety. Think of the kupuna who are on a fixed income who is renting out a portion of their house to make ends meet. They should be able to get a comprehensive understanding of the individuals they are sharing their space with. This isn't just a matter of being able to make rental payments. It is also the obligation of a landlord with multiple tenants, say in an entire apartment complex, to provide a safe environment for all of their tenants. So again, this isn't just a matter of needing a credit check on one adult, but getting a comprehensive understanding of all tenants who are, again, all subject to the terms of the lease. As we have seen in the news lately, ensuring the safety of all tenants, as well as the housing provider, is important. We have included some suggested amendments in our written testimony that address our concerns. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to SB 473, SD1, HD1, relating to the practice of pharmacy. First to testify on this measure, we have James Skwetzky, Executive Officer of the Board of Pharmacy, with comments.
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. I am James Kizuski, Executive Officer of the Board of Pharmacy. You have my written testimony, and I'll be available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Seeing none. We'll be moving on to SB 390, SD1, HD1. First to testify on this measure, we have Kenneth Fink, Director for the Department of Health, with comments.
Aloha, Chair and Vice Chair, members of the committee. The department is requesting the repeal of Bill Section 2 in its entirety. The department has communicated with the committee chair on the rationale for this, and I'll be standing by for questions. But again, a repeal of Bill Section 2 is requested. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alani Kioki, Executive Director for the Hawaii Medical Board, in support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair Alani Kioki. With the Hawaii Medical Board, I agree with Mr. Kim's testimony to delete Section 2 of the bill in its entirety so that the bill can go forward as the purpose of the measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on then to SB 162, SD2, HD1, relating to dentistry licenses. First to testify on this measure, we have Sheena Choi, Executive Director for the Board of Dentistry, with comments on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Sheena Choi, Executive Officer of the Board of Dentistry. The board would like to stand on its written testimony and is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kenneth Fink, Director for the Department of Health, in support. Thank you. Next, we have Clementina D. Siria Ulep from the University of Hawaii, with comments. Okay, seeing none. Okay, we'll move on then to Patrick Donnelly from the Hawaii Oral Health Coalition, Hawaii Public Health Institute, in support on Zoom.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Patrick Donnelly with the Hawaii Oral Health Coalition and Hawaii Public Health Institute. We'll go ahead and stand on our written testimony in strong support of this measure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Next, we have Mike Yuyan from Aloha Care, in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair. Mike Nguyen with Aloha Care, just standing on a written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Andrew Davidson, individual testifying in support on Zoom.
Hi, Chair, Vice Chair. I'd just like to stand on my written testimony. Thank you for hearing this.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Don Sand, individual testifying in support in person.
Hello, Vice Chair Sayama and Chair Nakashima and distinguished members. My name is Dr. Sand. I'm formerly a cosmetic dentist, and for the last 8 years, I've been working on the front line of community service dentists, both as a consultant and working with the patients. Although I'm in leadership right now in 4 different dental or overlapping dental organizations, 2 are national best practice and 2 are local coalitions, today I would like to testify as an individual dentist, if I may. I stand in strong support of SB 162, SD2, HD1. I stand on my written testimony with only 2 quick highlights. Number 1, this no-cost measure will increase workforce shortage in 3 areas: public health sector, rural health, and our neighbor islands. This measure will improve access and reduce our oral health disparity. Number 2, this bill does not change in any way the original intent or scope of the practice for the community service license, but it only aims to clarify the service venues that these charity-minded professionals and volunteers can serve. Thank you so much for the chance to testify. I stand available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Please go ahead.
Aloha, my name is Melissa Pavlicek. I'm here today on behalf of the Hawaii Dental Association. If our testimony is somehow not in your record, I'd be glad to submit it. We support this measure. We had intended to offer some comments, but really are appreciative of being able to work with all of the stakeholders, and we really value our participation in the Hawaii Oral Health Coalition, and we support the intent of this measure.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll be taking a short recess for decision making. Recess.
Okay, reconvening the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. It's Tuesday, March 28th, 2023, conference room 329 for decision-making on today's bills. First up, Senate Bill 797, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relating to timeshare plans. Chair's recommendation is that we include DCCA's amendment to re-include definition of supplemental plan documents and adopting ARDA's amendments to add new language to section 514E-10.5 regarding developer certification that the developer has reviewed all blanket liens, etc. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on SB 797, SD1, HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair, vote aye. Representative Amato.
Aye.
Representative Bellotti.
Aye.
Representative Hashem.
Aye.
Representative Halsey Burdick.
Aye.
Representative Gates.
Aye.
Representative Lowen. Excused. Representative Onishi. Excused. Representative Tam.
Aye.
Representative Purick.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, on Senate Bill 798, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1, Chair's recommendation is to move it as is. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair unamended.
Voting on SB 798, SD1, HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is, noting the excused absences of Representatives Lowen and Onishi. Any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Members, Senate Bill 799, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relate to timeshare plans. Chair's recommendation is that we adopt DCCA's language to allow the ability to request updated title reports. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on SB 799, SD1, HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representatives Lowen and Onishi. Any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Members, Senate Bill 930, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relate to to the Residential Landlord Tenant Code. Chair's recommendation is that we adopt Office of Consumer Protection's amendments on a $25 cap regarding, I'm sorry. That we adopt the $25 cap, and then the information sought by, requested by the realtors, beginning with the line information sought by landlords to the end of their testimony. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on SB 930, SD1, HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representatives Lowen and Onishi. Any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Senate Bill 473, SD1, HD1, relating to the practice of pharmacy. Chair's recommendation is that we add, after a wholesale distributor, a new section, a new line, manufacturers engaged in direct distribution to qualified persons, comma. And also, on page 2, line 8, include physician assistants, APRNs with prescriptive authority to issue orders under Chapter 461. Members, questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on SB 473 SD1 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representatives Lowen and Onishi. Any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Senate Bill 390, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1, relating to emergency medical services. Chair's recommendation is that we remove Section 3 from the bill and effect date for June 30, 3000. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended. Section 2. What is? Oh, I'm sorry. Section 2. Okay, members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on SB 390 SD1 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representatives Lowen and Onishi. Any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Senate Bill 162, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1, relate to dentistry licenses. On page 6, lines 9 to 17, clarify that the temporary license shall be issued to a person who is 1, qualified to be examined, 2, enrolled in a postdoctoral program, and 3, a graduate from a dental college accredited or has a reciprocal agreement with the ADA Commission on Dental Accreditation, and other technical non-substantive amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on SB 162 SD1 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representatives Lowen and Onishi. Any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much, members. We are adjourned.